And whenever you're ready, go ahead.
I'm Pastor Glen Brown. I work for Milton Truck Lines out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and it's great. I mean, everybody knows a Milton truck, blue KW. Look for 8468. That's me. So,
Right.
That's not the body of Christ. The body of Christ is just like a human body. From the neck up, that's Jesus.
Yeah.
He's the head of the body. Okay, so that's where when pastor's talking about you gotta get your orders from headquarters.
Yeah.
Okay, that's orders from the head coming down to the body.
Yeah,
You know,
right.
it'd be the same as I always tell people, if you think you're doing something for Christ, right?
Yeah.
But you're actually doing it for yourself. It's like trying to breathe without using your brain.
Yeah.
Try to wave at somebody, but don't use your brain.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't. So you gotta wait till the orders actually come from
First.
headquarters. You gotta wait for Jesus to send it down through the Christian network
Yeah.
to you. You know. Now you might be the arm, you might be the hand, you might be the fingers that need to scratch an itch over here. You might be the feet that has to get the messages from it. And there's a huge ministry out there. I mean, a lot of truck stops now have there's the truckers ministry. There's the there's the truckers there's a few. Truck stop ministries, drivers ministries, truckers ministries, but lots of times when you go into these truck stops Sunday morning, that pastor might have an 8 o'clock service at his church, and he can't get to that truck stop until 11 o'clock. By then, those morning drivers, they're already gone. You know, they're heading to other parts of the country.
Yeah.
So they can only hit a very, very minor people, or amount of people, but they're trying, you know. And not all of them are solid, you know. A lot of them are manned by chaplains who have really become chaplains because they took what little bit they did know from when they were in church and they're trying to pass that on.
Yeah.
A lot of them, all they know is the salvation message. But if people come to them with something else, they're lost. They're like, I don't know, you got a Bible to sit down and work it out.
Yeah.
You know? Not many of them actually have pastors in them. Some do. But there's still that big gap. So, you know, when I'm running over 650, 660, 670 mile day, I will literally run with 300-400 different drivers. And I might get 5 minutes with this guy and 10 minutes with this guy. I think that one of the greatest ones was last winter. I ran over 500 miles, 10 trucks, all ran the same 500 miles, right? And the whole time we were in a snow blizzard, and the only thing that kept them calm is when I told them, don't worry guys, I got Jesus as a co-pilot, he's showing me the road. And that's how the subject came up, and we end up into literally what the other drivers were calling a minor whiteout, which means they could barely see past the hood of their trucks, but they could still see my lights. And they could see the light in front of the guy in front of them. And so I just slowed it down, and I could see the road clear. I knew where the road was. I could also see the snow, you know, but I knew where the edges of the road were, the edges of the lanes were, you know, through the snow. So I just stayed on the track that Jesus showed me, and we drove right through that storm.
Wow.
And we came from out of Tucumcari, New Mexico,
Wow.
all the way through Albuquerque. We stopped in Albuquerque, took a break, left Albuquerque, and drove all the way to Flagstaff. You know, 10 trucks stayed together. And we finally came out of the storm about Gallup, and then got back into it as we were coming into Flagstaff. But that's what it, you know, people ask me, where'd you learn the talent to drive on ice, to drive on snow? And I tell them, look, talent will only take you so far, you know? I mean, you see drivers that have more experience than me spinning out and jackknifing all the time.
Yeah.
But they're trying to drive on their own.
Right.
They're not running with the greatest co-pilot there is, the greatest co-driver, you know? Before I start a trip, as soon as I get my load numbers and I know where I'm picking up and where I'm dropping, before I stick that truck in gear, first thing I do is, Lord, you're with me on this one too, right? Because if you ain't there, I ain't there. You know, I don't want to go if you're not there.
Right.
You know, so be with me on this trip. Let's do it. Let's get another one down. You know, show me the people that need your word, need, you know, whatever, whether it be just, sometimes Jesus will point out somebody and say, tell me, that guy's feeling a little bad. Just walk by and lay your hand on his shoulder. And I'll literally, as I walk by, I just put my hand on his shoulder. Hey, how you doing, bro? And just walk on. Right? But that's all they need, because Jesus did the rest.
Yeah.
You know, I do what Jesus tells me, and, you know, let him do the rest. One of the guys at work asked me, how is it you sometimes gather such a crowd in the truck stops? I tell him I don't. I'm no good at gathering a crowd. But look in the Bible, look in the New Testament. Do you ever see a point where Jesus has a problem raising a crowd? Never. Everywhere he goes, a crowd draws. I just ask him to do the same thing. Lord, if you got work for me here, bring it to me. Because I could spend all day trying to get 1 or 2 people, but if you could bring them to me, maybe I can get 8 or 10 or 12.
Right.
You know, and Jesus still draws the crowd. People in the churches would do that same thing. Like there's people in my home church, there's people in this church. For some reason they're afraid to evangelize. They're afraid to really open up with Jesus. But if they understand that no matter where you go, Christ is right there with you. In you, next to you, around the people that he draws.
Yeah.
You know, I know people that have been going to church for 30 years that will, man, they have no problem telling you about their favorite restaurants and why it's their favorite restaurant and the meals they get there and the type of service, or a movie they went and saw last week and why it's such a great movie and how they hope it's going to become a series. And they don't understand what they're doing is they're evangelizing for that restaurant. They're evangelizing for that restaurant, for that movie. Yet the greatest gift we ever receive, you can't talk about it. It's wrong.